Welcome everyone to Sailor Moon Crisis on Dark Kingdoms. In this panel I'm going to be comparing and contrasting the live action series to the original anime and Crystal. I'm going to be showing clips. I'm going to first do them in chronological order. So first will be the classic series, then the live action series, and then Crystal. Hopefully you guys are going to have fun with all the video clips that we have because I've inserted jokes in them so you can laugh as much as you want at them. Or go, oh, I hate this. Ugh. So let's just start with the opening intro. Now before I begin, is there anyone in here that has never seen anything of Sailor Moon before and knows absolutely nothing about it? Okay, awesome, because there are going to be...
he raised his hand.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. So okay, there will be some slight spoilers in here, so I hope you don't mind. But those who watched the original English dub back in the 90s, they pretty much spoiled the whole mystery for you right in the first 2 minutes of the very first episode. So everyone who saw it, usually most likely in America for the first time, were spoiled right away.
My favorite was the Sailor Says segments.
So,
Yes.
as everyone already knows, pretty much, Sailor Moon was a manga series created by Naoko Takeuchi. Yes. It started out as, originally she did this one-chapter, one-shot manga called Sailor V. And it gained popularity, so she created another manga that was a spin-off called Sailor Moon. Toei decided, hey, we want to turn this into an anime because this could work like something that we use at Tokusatsu, Super Sentai, where we can have monsters of the week and go at it.
And it would be geared towards girls. While it's not technically a girls' anime, it could at least bring in new audiences that were mainly focused for boys.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, we've got Dragon Ball going on in the boys department, so let's see what Sailor Moon does. We're going to do this one season because she's only planning a 13, 14 chapter manga, one story arc. We're going to go with this. Then the anime was such a huge success, they had pretty much asked her, hey, we want to keep this going, so we want you to continue the manga, and we're going to base our anime off your story arcs for the manga, but we're going to continue what we were doing at work and have it be like a Monsters of the Week show. So they did an adaptation of the first story arc that, like I said, was going to be just one simple story arc. That's why there's an actual kind of definitive ending at the end of the first season. But that's way getting ahead of ourselves. The main character of Sailor Moon is...
Sailor Moon. Wow.
What? The title of the show is the main character? Sailor Moon's alter ego is Usagi Tsukino. She is a ditzy, selfish girl who likes to be lazy. She would rather eat and have fun, dream about boys, than do schoolwork. However, she also knows the true, how to really get the true selves of people. She loves everyone. She'll be friendly with everyone. Like one of the characters, Sailor Jupiter, when she first comes in, Jupiter's kind of a loner, and she just comes up and is like, I want that food. Can I have your food? And they become friends just like that, because she didn't care about what the rumors were of this girl. She just saw she had good food. I want to try that. And that's how it worked. She also had there's also another hero. His name is Mamoru Chiba. He is, in the original anime, he's a college boy. In the manga, he was a high school student. So I was like,
that somehow lives alone and can afford a nice apartment.
But he doesn't remember everything. His parents died in a car accident because Japan, all your parents die all the time. And he has these memories of something of a past life. He doesn't know what they are. Well, he takes on the persona of a character called Tuxedo Mask, who is based off Arsène Lupin, which is a thief based off the famous French thief. What was the cat burglar's name? I can't remember it now. So I have here a little bit of clips for Usagi and Tuxedo Mask, and also a little bit of the attacks she uses, because she has a tiara that can become an attack. And
Twilight Flash.
Depending on which one, because it's
Moon Tiara.
Moon Tiara Boomerang or Moon Tiara Action, depending on the version. And then she also has a magical wand that can heal people that get turned into villains.
Moon healing escalation.
Yes.
Moon Prism Power made up! In the name of the moon, I will punish. Oh my God!
Oh man! Oh, I'm so sorry!
Who are you?
I am known as Tuxedo Mask, Sailor Moon. You have to remember that crying isn't going to solve any of your problems.
Oh, never mind.
Watch where you're throwing things, bunhead.
Sorry.
30%? Looks to me like you better study harder next time, bunhead. I finally understand who I really am. I have been Tuxedo Mask all along.
No shit.
Unless I do so, the Moon Kingdom will be destroyed. I'm convinced the only way to stop this war is to eliminate Metalia and wipe out her evil energy.
Evil! Evil! So those of you who might not know Sailor Moon from the one clip when he was talking about...
It's from Abyssdom. Stephanie Shea as Usagi Tsukino and Robbie David as Mamoru Chiba.
So, basically they were living a past life thousands of years ago. Mamoru was a prince to planet Earth, Prince Endymion, and Usagi was Princess Serenity of the Moon Kingdom. They fell in love, and in this version, when the villains attacked the Moon Kingdom, they were all killed, essentially, and Usagi's mother used the last of her energy to send everyone into the future to be reincarnated, and with the hope that they'll have a normal life. That didn't happen because the Dark Kingdom reawakened after thousands of years and started to attack the Earth again. So the Sailor Guardians ended up being woken up by little cats that pretty much act as their mentors. So after Sailor Moon wakes up and goes through some adventures on her own, we're introduced to the second Guardian, a girl named Ami Mizuno, who is a shy genius. She's very reserved. Like I said, she's kind of shy, so she doesn't like to interact with a lot of people, but meeting Usagi actually, it starts out as Usagi's like, oh, well, she's super smart, so she can help me with my test. But then they become really great friends over the few episodes before they introduce the third one. So here's a little bit on Ami.
Mercury power made up! Hey, what is that? It's a supercomputer from Luna. Wow, that's totally awesome. What's taking so long? Oh, one more second. Just as I thought. Oh, yeah? Just as I thought.
What are your prime directives?
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
Thank you so much for saving my life, Miss Mizuno.
How does he know I'm Sailor Mercury?
Yeah, Clark Kent. It's not like you actually hide your face when you transform.
Yeah, that was always an interesting one, that they would transform and suddenly no one would be able to recognize them, even their families and friends. Which I guess Naoko at one point said it's because there's like this veil that covers their identities up, this mystical veil. I'm like, okay, sure, but you didn't say that in the series, so it's more like Superman and Clark Kent. So our next one is Sailor Mars, who is the quick-to-anger girl who is basically, she represents what her namesake is taken from, as she always likes to war with Usagi. She's the guardian of fire, quick to anger. She also early on decides that she falls in love with Mamoru, and because Usagi just blows Mamoru off saying, hey, that's not Tuxedo Mask, Rei says, okay, then I'm going to go after him myself since you don't care.
Mars power! Light up!
You and your stupid whacked-out jokes are gonna totally wreck the great reputation that the shrine has built in the community!
Yeah, now stop being such a stick in the mud about this. I mean, y'all gotta have a little fun sometime.
Yeah, what she said!
Usagi, this is our shrine's problem, not yours, so stay out of our business! Hey, don't you think that guy in front of us kinda looks like Tuxedo Mask?
Huh? No, not even a bit! Knock it off! This jerk's nothing like him!
Now, here goes!
Are you alright?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Oh, alright, great. Have a nice day.
He's such a nice, kind gentleman. I appreciate him.
So our next one is Mikoto Kino, Sailor Jupiter. Just like with Mamoru, her parents died. Oh, Japan. They died in a plane crash, so she's been left on her own. So she loves cooking and is kind of the strong one of the group. The first time she meets Usagi, she basically kicks these gangsters' butts who are trying to mess with Usagi, and she just doesn't take any crap from anyone.
Jupiter power! Make up!
Why, you!
Oh, wow.
You're just exactly like my former love who broke my heart.
Just yesterday you said that Krajo was exactly like him!
We were born to make history. We'll make it happen. We'll turn it around. Yes, we were born to make history.
So with Jupiter, she is also pretty boy crazy because everyone reminds her of her previous boyfriend from her previous school, but we never actually see what he looks like. And she is pretty much an expert in everything she decides to try, because when she's doing ice skating, they're like, oh yeah, don't you remember when she was back in her previous life, she was an expert ice skater on the Moon Kingdom. Cool. And then it's never heard about again, which will happen quite often. So our last Sailor Guardian from the first season was Sailor Venus, whose actually identity was the superhero Sailor V that she went by. So she was essentially the first one who was awakened, and in the series she went out and started taking on monsters in England for a little while. Unfortunately, because she comes in so late in the first season, there's not that much development for her. All we pretty much do get is a backstory of what happened when she was in England for an episode, and that's about as far as her development went. She did a lot more in the manga that I'll get into more in one of the later areas.
Venus power!
She's what? What happened? Don't worry, I'm here.
I felt that remaining dead to them would probably be the best thing for their happiness.
So she pretty much fakes her death to say, yeah, my friends are going to be okay with this in England. I'm just going to fake my death and go back to Japan. Now, I will say that Sailor Moon R actually does give her a great episode to develop her when everyone but her gets sick. So if you've seen R, you probably know which episode I'm talking about. If you haven't, definitely check that one out if you want to see more of what Minako can be like. Moving on, we have the villains. The main leader, Queen Beryl, in the first series she was in love with Prince Endymion back in the past, and that's all you really know about her. She's just kind of like the wicked queen. Ha ha ha! I want to conquer the world because reasons. So she doesn't do a lot. She also has a boss that is this giant tank of energy named Queen Metalia. But I do have here just a little snippet on Queen Beryl.
You still have not found the legendary silver crystal? No. Then you must search harder. The great ruler needs massive amounts of energy and can't be kept waiting. As you command. No. As you command. No. As you command. Why are you protecting this girl? What loyalty can you have for the moon? You are the prince of the earth. Marry me, and you will be king of both the moon and the earth.
No, Beryl. Don't you see what's happened? Metalia's evil energy has totally consumed you. Come to your senses. Free your heart from evil. No.
Now, in the manga, Beryl has 4 generals. They pretty much get a chapter or 2 to themselves and then they're dead. They have no character development whatsoever. They're just, hi, bye. The anime did a lot more with them. Mostly. The first general, Jadeite, gets the short end of the stick in this series because his job is there just to introduce the characters, introduce the world to the problem, and that's it. He's kind of a plain villain, as you will see.
I'll send you 3 pathetic kids to the depths of hell.
Getting stuck in the airport.
See, I think the airport's the biggest villain of that episode.
So now our next general is Nephrite. What they really did was an interesting thing with Nephrite is in the manga, Usagi's best friend, Naru, is there for kind of like moral support, like, yeah, Usagi, you can do it. And that's pretty much it. So in the anime, they said, hey, let's take this character of Naru, who has this potential, and let's pair her up with a guy that's thousands of years older than her.
Yeah, because that's not creepy at all.
But it's still better than Twilight. And so they went along and did this character development with Nephrite and pairing him up. So Nephrite started out as the villain, like, yeah, I'm going to kill everyone. And then you know, actually, I kind of enjoy this life. I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Nephrite, you came! Did we get him?
I'm not giving up the dark crystal.
Now our other 2 generals are named Zoisite and Kunzite. The reason I put them together is that in the anime, they made those 2 a couple. If you remember, and if you saw the original dub, they actually turned Zoisite into a girl because, heaven forbid, we have 2 guys in love. Whoa. But they were pretty much dead upon arrival in the manga. So here they did an interesting aspect with the relationship by making them a couple. And they worked together a bit till Zoisite bit the bucket and the rest of the series became the Kunzite show. So here are my favorite clips from these guys.
She's quite lovely, too.
You're cruel, Kunzite. How can you suggest she's more lovely than me? Underneath, she's just an ugly monster.
I'm kidding. Don't let envy ruin your beautiful face. Look at me.
Go away.
This rose can't compare with the beauty I see in your face.
Thank you, my dear. It feels warm. Huh?
Don't be condescending to me, you presumptuous dress-up dolls!
Return Tuxedo Mask! I mean Endymion! You have no right to keep him!
I'd be willing to let him go if you'd just hand over the silver crystal.
Sailor Moon! We need to put our powers together to protect Sailor Moon. Let's do it, girls! Stop it! Even if you went out right now and bought us the finest haute couture trend-setting designs as replacements, I can't forgive you for trying to shred our Sailor Guardian outfits! In the name of the moon, I'll punish you!
A proud member of the Dark Kingdom's 4 Kings of Heaven! You can't make me yell out refreshed ever! Shit!
Yeah, I love that. You can't make me yell refresh, but I just yelled refresh. Now, with the original anime, Sailor Moon, like I said earlier, went to a Monsters of the Week show like Super Sentai, so they just have various monsters. The way the monsters were done would change upon who the general was. We had monsters that would take the personality of a person and act like them. Nephrite had used the stars to make objects into monsters. Zoisite would collect these items called rainbow crystals because there's this crystal in the show that got separated into 7 individual crystals, and every time he would take a crystal from a person, they would turn into a monster, which is where Usagi's wand came in to restore them back to normal. And then Kunzite decided while he was trying to find out who Sailor Moon was, because he just didn't look at the 2 people side by side, that he would turn people into monsters to try to use sails to get them like a haircut monster. So here's just a couple of the monsters of the week from the show.
You're too late. I, Cameron, have stolen Kijin's energy. Now take this! I am Rico Kata! Take this! Watch out!
So that's pretty much my presentation on the first anime series, because you can only cover so much in an hour. So after Sailor Moon came to a conclusion, the first season, like I said earlier, Toei was like, we want more. We want more Sailor Moon. So it went on for 4 more seasons. After that, when it came to an end, that was pretty much it. Until in 2003, Toei decided, hey, you know what? Kamen Rider is a success, Super Sentai is still a success. Let's try our attempt at a live-action Sailor Moon adaptation. So they hired a writer named Kobayashi who you may know who has done the anime adaptations of Attack on Titan, Death Note. She's also helmed a bunch of Kamen Rider and Super Sentai shows. She did the anime adaptation of Claymore. She went ahead and became the showrunner for the Sailor Moon live action series, and they decided that they were just going to fully focus on the Dark Kingdom saga again, but they're going to put their own little spins on it. Some of the characters are pretty much identical to what you saw in the original anime because she wanted to take what worked and leave it at that. What do we have here? The downside is a lot of the characters also then became as shy. So Ami retained being shy, but then Rei was shy because Rei's mother had died and her dad was a politician, so he practically ignored her her entire life. You still had Makoto's parents died, and Sailor Venus, which I'll get into some of those more after. But here are some things with Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask. Usagi's an even bigger ditz in this.
Tori.
あ、さ、災いが災いを呼び、月の王国と地球は戦いを始め、リングは大いなる悪によって地球は滅亡し。
So as you can see, a lot of the basic story is the same. They were from an ancient kingdom. They died. They got reincarnated. In this series, yeah, Sailor Moon, she will just point out blank state, yeah, I'm Sailor Moon by accident, even though she doesn't even know at that time that Mamoru is Tuxedo Mask. Now, I will say, like, even though the costumes when they're transformed, the wigs do look kind of goofy, I do like the concept that they look like completely different characters in human form than they do transformed. So that kind of brings up that little scenario of, oh, this makes sense on why they can't tell who they are. Now the live action series also did have some, there were some great standpoints from the writing. The problem is, it didn't have the budget to do what they wanted it to do. As you will see here when I get into Sailor Mercury, I have a fight scene of what the fight scenes pretty much are relegated to throughout the entire show. Also, there is a clip I have here. You learn that Mercury in the show has a really odd taste in clothing. There's a scene where they're trying to get Makoto ready to go out with a boy, and so they have these cell phones that they can take a picture of any clothing they want, and they can make that clothing then appear as their outfit. So they're having Makoto go through all their different styles, like, well, none of these are working for hers. Why don't we try Ami's outfit, see what works for her, if anything there.
And always whirling, whirling, whirling towards freedom.
That's one of my favorite scenes because you have this like really shy girl and then they're just like, what is that? So as I said, Sailor Mars is pretty much the same. She gets angry at Usagi. She initially actually does not want to join the team compared to the first anime where she's all into being team, but she wants to be team leader. Here it's just, I don't want to fight with anyone. I don't trust anyone. I have daddy issues because I'm Japanese. Now with Sailor Jupiter, again, same kind of story. She met a guy when she was young, at another school, got kicked out. She fell in love with him. She's not as boy crazy in this show as she was in the original anime, but they do develop a relationship between her and, in the original anime, the arcade guy who ran the arcade, Motoki, who in this, he runs a karaoke shop. So they develop a relationship between those two during the series. And the interesting part of Motoki, well, he's also shy, which is kind of the exact opposite from the original anime because he was like the most talkative of them all. I work at a store, I have to be outgoing. He's like, hi, I like turtles. Cool, okay. So here is Sailor Jupiter. Now, Sailor Venus has the biggest departure from the other characters. In the original anime, she aspired to want to be an idol. In this series, she already is an idol. She already has big hits. One song is named C'est la vie, the French saying, but Sailor V. And they also in the
it plays all throughout.
Yeah, you'll hear it a lot in the show. And
song, C'est la vie.
What's that?
There was a song.
Yep, pretty much.
But they don't have it in the...
Her version, basically. It's just essentially her repeating C'est la vie and then some lyrics in between every now and then. The other difference is in the manga, Sailor Venus was a Kagemusha. If you don't know what Kagemusha is, in feudal Japan, they would have a body double for a leader, for a shogun. So that if an assassination attempt was going to be made, they would have the body double be the one who would go out in public, greet the public, talk to them, just in case. So Sailor Venus in the manga was just like that. So they continued that trend in the live action series. So for the first half of the series, because Venus is introduced in the opening scene to the very first episode. So she's in the whole series throughout. So they're developing her and Artemis right from the get-go, but also she's dying from an unknown disease. So she starts in the series to try to train Rei to not only be the leader of the Guardians, but also to take up being an idol. And she has the longest transformation sequence ever.
ライブのチケットじゃないのか。
ライブのチケットって？
自分のライブだからだろう。
Oh, this is like episode 40.
まさか。
え？
知らなかったのか？セーラー V の頃から知ってたぞ。
Now I put a section here for Luna and Artemis because in this live action series, they take the form of plush dolls to hide their identities, also to save on Toei's budgets.
Assuming these are not full-size.
いいけど、シード画面が敵ってこと忘れちゃダメよ。うちのじゃないけど、バレンタインのチョコ。ありがとう。嘘、こっちが本物。みんなこう頼むよ。
So yeah, the hard part also is they would sometimes use CGI to show them. So they would alternate, like there's one scene, one camera angle, she'll be the plush, and then they'll go into a CGI scene for a moment, and then go back to the plush. So it's like they were trying to do other stuff, but the CGI sticks out so bad, you're just like, yeah, you should have just stuck to the plush. Now, Queen Beryl has a little bit more backstory following the manga where she was a maid who unleashed this evil. And then that's pretty much all they do with her. She's as flat as paper.
我が名はクイーンベル、闇の王国、ダークキングダムの女王。
クイーンベリー。
セーラ戦士よ、お前たちなど滅びた月の王国の残念に過ぎ、プリンセスともどもおとなしく月で眠っておればよいもの。だがもう遅い。お前たちのプリンセスに大いなる闇の祝福を与えよ。破滅が。
She looks like a RuPaul's Drag Race contestant.
She does, she does.
And she's also the most forgiving version of Beryl of 3 versions because her minions will repeatedly fail. They're like, I'm sorry. She's like, okay, just try better next time. Okay, just try better next time.
And as the Mistress of Darkness, like, that's very...
Yeah.
It's not
So
too dark.
the 4 Kings of Heaven, the reason I have put them as one category here is because whereas they all had individual personalities in the first anime, there's one thing the first anime did not do that the manga did. In the manga, they were the previous knights to Prince Endymion. So they were all had a backstory and they were turned to the dark side by Beryl to go against Prince Endymion to invade the Moon Kingdom. They kept that similarly to this series, so all of them have a past and they have a connection to Mamoru, which is developed by the show, throughout the show. However, the problem is, they don't really know what really to do with these guys because half the time they're just standing around arguing with each other. In one of my reviews I posted, start doing like the Pinky and the Brain music as they were just chatting like, what plot should we do tonight? I don't know, you chose the plot last week, it's your turn to pick. Because they just squat around and Zoisite, he's the one who remembers first the past and he plays the same 2 piano tracks over repeatedly throughout the entire show.
お前まで先生に興味を持ったのか。悪いと思い出したところでお前の頭を支配するのがデリルか。あの男に変わるだけだぞ。
フレダ・クンゼット、お前は前世でマスターを覚えてるだろ。
お前こそ覚えてるはずだ。マスターが何をした。
だからこそ前世と同じ悲劇を繰り返された。我らはマスターと共にやるべきだ。
違うな。前世ある限り全ては繰り返す。その前に私が終わらせる。
軍隊とお前も出ていけ。私は前世を思い出す。
お前の出る幕ではない。何？お前は下がってろ。いかにしろ。何を話している。分かってる。とにかく先生とは何だ。分かる。先生は分かんない。マスター。落ち着け。もうこれ以上の下にはクイーンメタリアだけど、わずかな元気分かってる。クイーンメタリアだからいかにしろ。もうこれ以上成長のためにとにかくどういうこと？やめろ。落ち着け。いかにしろ。分かってる。やめろ。
This one's pretty self-explanatory. You can just play the clip. I love how in those cactus monsters, when the music just stops, one of them falls down until they get back up. The monsters of the week in this show were not all that impressive, unfortunately, which is a shame because Toei has shown throughout Tokusatsu series that they can really do good monster designs. Now, there were some original concepts done in the live-action show. The first is Princess Serenity. Now, I know you're like, well, Sailor Moon was always Princess Serenity. However, they did it differently in this series. In this series, Princess Serenity was such a selfish woman that when Prince Endymion died protecting her, she blew up the Moon Kingdom and the Earth, killing everyone. So, during this series, when Endymion is taken away, she goes crazy and her split personality starts to take over. No, Yeah, she's crazy, selfish. I don't like her. But also her sword that she has is based on a sword from the manga because the Venus got this sword that they could use there. Another thing the live-action series did is Kunzite decided to kidnap Mercury and turned her evil, which is essentially what is the highlight of the live-action series, this long, like 8-episode arc, because you get to see Ami in a completely different perspective from what you're used to seeing, where she's manipulative, she's just like, I'm a badass.
学校は休みたくないからちょっと居心地よくさせてもらったの。学校で戦う気はないけど油断はしないでね。最初に相手をするのは誰？それとも3人一緒？プリンセスが相手をしてくれるから光栄だわ。
マーキュリー、やめなさい。やめなければ私はあなたを倒さなければならない。
どうぞ。できるな。
プリンセスやめて。
プリンセスがこんなに弱かったなんて。
Now, while Mercury was on the evil side, since the Guardians were down a member, Luna decided to take on the human form of a child and become a Sailor Guardian known as Sailor Luna. And she's quite annoyingly adorable.
Mega!
Like they literally went into one.
There was one other character they introduced in the live-action series. Her name was Mio. She was basically a version of Queen Beryl, but younger.
That's pretty much it.
It's like if Avril Lavigne were a communist.
Yeah. it threw up pretty.
Her job was pretty much there to steal Mamoru away from Usagi. And that was about it. So our final one, after the live-action series ended, it ended with a special where two people got married. I'm sure you can figure out who. There was no more Sailor Moon again. Well, Toei decided in 2012, they made this announcement that we're going to do a brand new Sailor Moon anime for its anniversary. A couple years went by before it actually came out because they didn't know what they were doing. So they released Sailor Moon Crystal, which was meant to be a closer to the manga adaptation of the series. Now, the manga is cool and all because it's the original aspect, but it doesn't really do anything in the way of character development. The main focus is pretty much Usagi and Mamoru, and that's it for the first arc. None of the other ones get more than maybe a scene to 2 scenes of development, and the series was also highly criticized for its animation because it looked like, despite them working on the show for 2 years, it was made in the time span of a week for the entire series, and they would also use a lot of CGI models for transformation scenes that looked quite lifeless. In fact, it ended up being so bad that when they released it on Blu-ray in Japan, they went and reanimated a lot of the scenes over to make people look more natural. Like there were times when their necks would be really skinny and their heads would be a lot larger. Eyes would just look kind of dead inside. So I've got here, first the basics of Sailor Moon and Usagi that Sailor Moon and Usagi, wow. Sailor Moon and Mamoru, which will look quite familiar with some subtle differences. Meaning Romeo and Juliet.
It's not my fault the other kids always get to school on time.
That's why I in the eye.
Remember your name, Sailor Moon.
You can stay in touch with her by using your communicator. Huh? You mean this? Isn't it just a regular old watch? Luna, what's the matter?
Why are you talking to yourself?
It's you again!
We seem to bump into each other a lot. There's no need to scream.
Are you in junior high too?
No, I'm a high school student.
Mamoru Chiba, Moto Azabu Private High School?
So it brainwashed the humans and attacked the moon. Only
the young Prince Endymion was immune to its evil power. He fought to save his people and the princess he loved. But alas, while protecting you, he was slain. When he fell, so great was your despair that you took your own life.
A rose will bloom, and will fade.
So yeah, in the manga, she decided to kill herself because Tuxedo Endymion had died.
I feel like there's a lot of private schools in Tokyo.
It seems to be like that. So that's just a little bit on Usagi and Mamoru. Now, I have the 4 Sailor Guardians as their own category because, as I said, they get maybe a scene or two of development. Ami is still shy, but then we have Rei, who is easygoing. Instead, she doesn't get angry. She accepts Usagi for who she is, doesn't like say, you need to do better. No, it's just, okay, she's Usagi, I'm just going to let it go. Makoto is not as boy crazy this time around, or as her English voice actor said, Amanda Miller said in one of our interviews last year at Color Anime Fest, she's not as thirsty. And they kept in the aspect of Venus being the Kagamusha for the Moon Princess.
You thought that cat was an angel? Oh, just ignore me. I'm not making sense. I'm sorry.
Speaking of Usagi, where is she anyway? Her teacher gave her detention for falling asleep in class again. That does sound like her.
I don't know you anymore. Are you on your way home?
Huh? Oh, hey there, Kina.
I thought we could walk home together.
You actually see the boy?
Didn't I tell you? I have a girlfriend now. So, yeah, I'm gonna walk home with her from now on.
Sailor V's red mask. So you really are her.
How rude. Show some respect. While it is true she is Sailor V, there is more. My mistress is of the Moon Kingdom, Silver Millennium. She is heiress to the sacred legendary Silver Crystal. She is Princess Serenity.
For the honor of Grayskull, I am Shiva!
Yes, that's the sword I mentioned earlier that they get. Now, Queen Beryl in the manga and in Crystal actually had a little bit more of a backstory. She was one of the maids to the Moon Kingdom, or Earth, and she grew jealous of the love between Endymion and Serenity, so she found an ancient evil that would allow her to get power to basically take over the Earth, make Endymion fall in love with her, and destroy the Moon Kingdom out of jealousy.
Once Queen Natalia fully revives, she may indeed devour the whole world and beyond. But there's no turning back. Not since that fateful day when I first stumbled upon D-Point. It was as if some force had drawn me there and wanted me to discover the Dark Kingdom. With my own hands, I broke the seal and freed Queen Natalia from her ancient prison. It may have been my destiny to release her, but when it comes to the legendary Silver Crystal, I won't hand it over so easily. I shall keep the legendary Silver Crystal for myself. Then the entire planet will be mine for the taking.
So finally, our 4 kings of heaven. Like I said before, they were the previous kings of Endymion, so they kept that. However, despite the fact that nothing was done with them from character perspective, a couple years later, Naoko decided, you know, I wish I had actually paired the 4 up with the 4 guardians and actually give them boyfriends for once, so that their whole job is not to just protect the princess. So she did this fan art piece. Toei decided for Crystal, hey, you know what? Let's take that idea and just throw it in this series. It might not make sense, we might not develop it all, but it's there. So here's a look at the 4 kings.
I am Jadeite, Knight of Patience and Harmony.
I am Nephrite, Knight of Wisdom and Comfort.
I am Zoisite, Knight of Purity and Healing.
I am Queensite, Knight of Virtue and Affection. We 4 pledge you our service. We would lay down our lives to protect you.
I thank you, brave knights. Together we shall keep the earth prosperous and peaceful.
Let's go. Protect the princess and the crystal no matter what. weren't always our enemies.
Yes.
Hello, Kunzai.
Weak-minded fools!
Alright, so that is pretty much the end of the presentation. Does anyone have any questions on Sailor Moon at all? No?
So many I wouldn't know where to start, but let's go for real.
Is there somewhere that you can watch the live action one?
Not legally, unfortunately. No one has licensed it. People keep bugging Viz like, hey, when you finish with the original anime and Crystal, can you bring the live action one? But it's hard to say because Toei doesn't even really acknowledge the live action version anymore. The toy sales were pretty poor when it came out. And that's also why they started throwing in like Sailor Luna with a bunch of gimmicks, was to hopefully push a more younger audience into the show. It didn't work out. The series was actually supposed to be 52 episodes, was cut down to 49. And even though they had TV specials to, or direct-to-video specials, they pretty much looked at the show as a failure. It's you. Stop moving. Any other questions at all? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Oh.
Well, it's kind of a stupid question, but I know somebody else kind of raised the same thing. That little black orb that Beryl has in the original animated series.
She goes like.
Did they ever determine what she was supposed to be seeing in
It was supposed to be Metalia's energy, I believe.
Oh. That makes sense. Because it feels like she's trying to adjust the cable because she's getting the whole copy. Wait, I think I can see a mixer.
Well, I thank you all so much. We do have cards to our YouTube channel if you'd like to check out the reviews I've done. Have a great con.